Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leather Supply, Grommets and Eyelets. I simply don't use enough of these on my projects, and I absolutely should. They look great and they're easy to set. Well, what's the difference? Is there a difference? We're going to talk about that at length. All right, so anything I use in this video, weaverleathersupply.com or check below. We've got links there, going to take you straight to the website. Also, if you want to know when our videos release, just click your notifications. You'll know exactly when these come out. So let's step over to our pattern table, get started. Actually, there are several differences between grommets and eyelets, both in the way we use these and the way we set these. We're going to talk about every detail here. So let's start with an eyelet. Right here, typically in smaller sizes, it's a one-piece set, and this is simply a hole protector. Now, if we've got a piece of lace moving through that hole, it's going to move through there very easily. But all told, we're just protecting the hole, adding durability. When we jump over to a grommet, now we've got a two-piece set, typically in the larger sizes. Well, actually, not really. That's changed, and we'll get to that. But right here, we've got a hole protector, but also we're going to strengthen the material around that hole. That's why we see these on tents or tarps or sails. We've got strength as well as hole protection. Now, on our grommets, I love these. I've never had one misset, whether I'm going by hand or by machine. 5 sizes here. We're going to start with our grommets, then we'll jump back over to our eyelets. So on our grommets, right here, the smallest, that's a 3/16 inch inside diameter. We've got a number 0, which is a 1/4 inch, a number 1, which is a 5/16 inch. Then we jump over to a number 2, 3/8 inch inside hole, and a number 4, the big one. That's a 1/2 inch hole. But again, because we've got 2 pieces here, these are so easy to set by hand. So let's jump over to our punch table, set a couple of these. If we're setting our eyelets or our grommets with a machine, we don't have to pre-punch our hole. If we're setting these by hand, we absolutely need to. Well, 2 big reasons. First off, I'm never going to get that to press through my leather in any decent fashion simply with hand strength. The bigger problem, I've got to set these upside down. If I'm setting by hand, I'll never hit my mark. So let's just go ahead and pre-punch our hole. This is the 3/8 inch or a number 2. Notice how that just slips right in there. Perfect. Let's drop that in. We're going to take a flange or a washer. Let's drop that on. And we don't even have to center that. You'll see how easy it is to set one of these. So let's drop our setter in. 2 good shots. Perfect every time. These are so easy to set. Okay, let's jump over to our eyelets because it's not necessarily the same situation. One of the things we need to remember with both eyelets and grommets is that the setters are all size specific. So we need a setter for each size. Well, that can get a little bit expensive. Well, over on the eyelets, I like the 10mm, and we'll talk about that. Over on the grommets, for the most part, the only one I use is the 00, but I've got a 00, a number 2, and a number 4. Now again, over here, that can be a little bit expensive for us crafters, and in all honesty, I don't really use that one much. Once in a while, I'll repair a tarp or a sail, but that's about it. Now, on our eyelets, this is a little bit different situation here in sizing. So we've got an 8mm, we've got the 10mm, and a 12mm. Now, that size does not correspond with our inside diameter. That's actually side to side. So it's a little bit different. But really with the eyelets, they simply are protecting a hole, and any size is going to look nice and work great with lace. Okay, so setting these by hand, not optimum. We can do it, and we'll do that here very shortly. Best way to set these is with our little wonder, a throat, and an anvil. We're going to set it both ways. We can do it by hand, but that's the best way to go. Okay, let's jump over to our punch table, set a couple of eyelets. If we're setting our eyelets with a machine, we don't necessarily need to pre-punch our holes. Well, yes and no, and we'll get around to that. But if we're going to hand set these, we absolutely need our pre-punched holes. Now, we talked about our sizing. So an 8mm, actually that's the outside diameter. The inside diameter is roughly half of our number. So our 12mm, 6mm hole, 10mm is a 5, and an 8mm is a 3.7mm hole. Now, if we want to go with a dry punch, I would say a 9/64 for our smallest, our 8, a 10mm, 13/64, and then for the largest, the 12mm, let's go with a 1/4 inch. Now, those are not extremely common, but not uncommon sizes in dry punches. So when we set an eyelet, I do want to punch my hole because again, when we're hand setting these, we're actually going to have to set these upside down. So let's drop our eyelet in, drop that in our setter. Now, here's a good point with these. If I just give that 1 or 2 good strikes, that collar's simply going to split open. What I've got to do here, setting these by hand, I've got to work this around easily. There we go. Okay, relatively good set. Well, now let's back up. Let's give this 2 good shots and see what happens. Look at that. What a mess. That collar actually split in 4 different places. So if we set these by hand, we need to work them down easily. Okay, let's jump over to the Little Wonder and watch how easy these set. This is one of my favorite tools in my shop. Well, first off, speed, absolutely. But secondly, and almost more importantly to me, accuracy. It is a perfect straight up and down motion. It's going to set everything each time, every time. Best part, it sets everything we sell. So with this, we've got a throat and we've got an anvil. Again, size specific. But what we can do, let's put our anvil up and our throat down. So now what we're doing is we're setting our eyelets from the front of our project so we can hit our marks. The problem is that little eyelet, it's just not going to stay on that post. So let's reverse these. Good. Now we've got to set these from the back. We're looking at the back of our pattern. We can always mark the back, but it's so easy. So we've got a pre-punched hole. Let's drop our eyelet in, face down. How easy and clean is that? And fast too. Okay, I mentioned we don't have to punch our holes, pre-punch our holes right here. So let's try that. Just as easy and as fast, and we saved a whole step. Again, this is a great tool. Okay, one more step. Let's talk about some decorative uses for our eyelets and grommets. When we typically see eyelets and grommets, they're used in a utility fashion. We look and we move on. Actually, the decorative side, so many ways we can go with this. I wish I had more samples. In all honesty, I haven't explored the eyelets and the grommets as much as I should have, but I'm going to now. Here's a big point. So right here, we've got antique nickel eyelets. Well, we've got antique nickel grommets, rivets, D's, O's, buckles, spots. Yeah, so now on our projects, every bit of hardware can match. Well, now let's toss in the eyelets or the grommets because we have the grommets in the same finishes. Antique nickel, antique copper, antique brass. We've got a solid brass and a polished nickel. There's so many things we can do. I'm going to work on some samples. We'll see those again. But there's one place I do see eyelets that in my opinion, it's not the best way to go. Just my opinion, but I think you're going to agree. Love the look of the eyelets on our size holes on a belt. Well, first problem, most buckle prongs, in fact, that's the number 10, so that's the medium, is not even going to fit through that. Okay, so let's do this. Let's find a prong that's small enough. Now let's set this as if we were setting a belt. Okay, well, there we go. Well, it seats pretty well. Here's the problem. Notice to pull that through, notice how much stress or pressure there is on this side of that eyelet. It's really trying to separate the eyelet and the leather. Well, that's why to me this is not one of the best ways to go because that eyelet's going to fall out in no time. Well, now we're going to have something that looks terrible. Couple eyelets, none, couple eyelets. But the bigger problem is the eyelets where we're not needing the protection, oh, they're fine. Where we need that protection, that eyelet is long gone. So it looks pretty good, but in my opinion, it's not the best use for these. All right, so let's get creative with our eyelets and with our grommets. There are so many ways we can go, so many possibilities. I have definitely talked myself into using eyelets and grommets on more projects. In fact, I need to. I hope you find just the right spot for your eyelets, your grommets, or both. I hope this is good information for you. Good luck with your projects.